Welcome back. I'm glad to see that you're enjoying yourselves or learning something. I would actually prefer to do both. One or the other. That's that's good. If you leave comments, that would be very helpful. I think you will actually improve my radio voice. Sorry, my radio face. I wish I had a face for TV, but I've got a face for the radio. This way, without beard, it should be 45 years plus 4 beard. Peace was in the late 20s. So it's come over to genetic. My dad said because he didn't have a kid, but I didn't see where he listened to something. He likes some music is good. The slight delay has to do, I need to take my mask because I'm not doing it. I need to take when I started. Nine. Now, see, I started very close to 9:20 and didn't come out fully ready yet. Man, I might like the most of the day. That could almost count as an excuse or justification for my dragging. Okay, once again, we are reading Fabulous book, How I Turned University into State. My Spare Time by William Nickerson. Truthfully, this book has a lot of concepts in here that I hope open your mind. This book is what I would consider required reading if you want to take a step forward into creating wealth. However, I could be wrong, just because I'm somebody who's taking that step forward. It's still a bunch of people because I've dreamed about listing for a long time. I think Facebook media years ago. And actually, the first version, then this version, and the this version comes out, which is 5 later. This is like which is why I'm reading this one first. Let me come back and read some of the others. I would like to read some of the other books. My favorite dreams, long distance real estate investing, favorite dreams, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And I'm willing to read those to you. They're still under copyright. Copyright is what 75 years, so you'll all know where I do. However, those are very affordable books. You can get any version you want. The audible version, the paperback, or the version for less than 20. You can get all 3 of them and a bunch of bonus material. About 50 each. And if you don't have $50 to invest, take what steps you can. Buy wonderful. And if you feel like the later come back and buy the bonus material, it can be quite useful. Even better bonus material. There is tons and tons of material on the Bigger Pockets podcast. Now you don't just have the Bigger Pockets podcast. You got the Bigger Pockets podcast, the Bigger Pocket Movie, Bigger Pocket Business, and then some other one about general finance. Those became very popular and tons of material. I encourage you to seek out every bit of free material you have. And you're going to read everything in your library for real estate. Then start going through interlibrary exchange. If you have library privileges at your library, you will have the privilege of using interlibrary exchange with every library they participate in. Most libraries, this is part of one of the three national chains, and so when you look at it, they're in. Some libraries participate in multiple ones so that they have multiple libraries. These are those are a lot of libraries. It's like a university, especially one that has pottery science or pre-law majors. They have a large library, and they usually have a tiny interlibrary exchange material here. Whether or not you'll have access to that library is questionable. But you never know. Now, one such college, their library is accessible by the library card from the regular local library. So if you have a library card from the local library, you go in there and show them that makes it your their library card. I do always talk to you return books and return that way. This is a very easy way to read. If you start reading and reading, you will actually get to the point of reading which will you have it. So right now all the read is 200 pages a day. That's probably going to increase slightly. First of all, by dedicating some time to read, and we want to see how you enjoy reading. Publish start with 3 minutes. You're probably going to increase that. You're getting to the time, an hour to an hour. But if you can read it, we can have that daily reading an hour every day as I read to you. And I will allow it to be slowed down by reading. I have to read twice as fast as I read by myself. That's pretty good. I have just 3 months back, I had a good ready for the juice and I like some things have changed lots for me. My life, I am under the impression that traumatic brain injuries are associated with the seizure that have migraines that the media has such traditional 3-hour-a-week job. It's part of the reason I'm pushing towards finding other candidates that can do and so if you just have nothing to do, don't have enough money to buy the box that you sleep in. And maybe keep power in your head during the day. If you're looking at TV, do other luxuries like eating while you're on it. It's a good check. Also, I don't know if I have the opinion it's a good check. So, looking for other avenues and opportunities to expand my horizons and get back into sometimes my family. Discouraged the trust of it. I graduated high school with my grandfather was already living in paper to pay for me to go to school with my whatever. And my mother and grandmother not ready to the paper bag because they felt I needed to have a traditional 30-hour a week just over broke. Just over broke. And not done well. Has to work on the work thing. Is disabled. So to the extent is a local leader, I need to expand my horizons and work. That's one of the reasons also choose to read out loud in this little line screen. Do believe that the lives of you will be seen and archived on YouTube so people can see them. That's the actually all. So I'm not overly concerned about that. So we're going to get started now. We left off at chapter 2, so I'm going to be at chapter 2. If I'm correct, well, we're going to get 2 and move to 3. Oh, yeah. Chapter 2, step by step to produce financial independence. Your investment commitments should require only a modicum of personal attention, and the estate must be large enough for you to leave the capital intact and live in comfort from the income. You might consider a net estate of $100,000 for producing a 6% net income of $6,000 a year, a sufficient goal to achieve a fair degree of financial independence. If you peg your minimum goal at $250,000, producing a net close to $15,000 a year, the larger your holding, naturally the more supervision they will demand. But as compensation, you can delegate routine tasks and decisions to employees, as I do, and handle personally only major policies. Let's say you aspire to be a millionaire. How can you get your million invested to pay approximately $600,000 annual net? Let us examine my formula showing your probable expectations from an accumulated investment of real estate income property. Let's suppose you have saved a moderately average nest egg of $50 monthly for 4 years, including compound interest. This would exceed $25,000, the median savings for a U.S. family with a breadwinner between 25 and 34. You could start with 1,000, as my wife and I did during the Depression, as I mentioned. I know many recent purchases of houses and duplex apartments with down payments of 1,000 or less. But for a sound start on current markets, I figure the average investor should have about $25,000. Let us take this $25,000 and see how with average luck, you can pyramid it to over $1 million in 20 years. We will invest in property by steps. 0 day. Step 1. We take the $25,000 nest egg from the savings account and then borrow 3 times as much, $7,500, making a total of $10,000. With the $10,000, you buy a rental house in need of renovation and needs to borrow. This means you borrow 75% of the total purchase price. Most metropolitan newspapers produce daily property opportunities Most metropolitan newspapers advertise daily property opportunities asking as low as 10% down. The present owner or other lender will loan 9 times the buyer's investment. As mentioned in Chapter 1, experienced buyers like myself often secure 100% financing rather than unusual rather than unusual opportunities. However, for our examples, we will operate on average possibilities, which you can readily expect to match or exceed by getting started. Typical purchases will later be detailed with approximately 25 with approximately 75% financing, which you can easily obtain as an average investor. Since taking the average of financing, since taking the average of financing is the best part of our plan. Three full chapters, 22, 23, and 24, will later be devoted to the many aspects of borrowing which will enhance your progress. Step 2. In addition to your $10,000 purchase price, you put in 600 more from savings each year for the next 2 years. This makes an accumulated investment of $11,200 with $1,200 savings, plus any net income from the property you arrange to paint and renovate. This increases the income value and therefore the sale value of the property so it can be sold at a profit. 2 years. Step 3. You sell your improved house for $14,000 for a gross profit on your investment of money and supervisory time of $2,000 for a gross profit of $2,800. 25% over 2 years. This represents an overall gross renovation. You repay the $7,500 borrowed, and you have 7.5% average interest has already been paid in monthly installments from the property income. You pay 5% average sales cost, $700, leaving the net profit of $2,100. You now own $5,800 at the end of 2 years. In most cases, as you have shown in the later chapters, you will also net the additional amount by which the loan has been amortized. From rental income to be conservative in this reckoning, we will omit these usual earnings in order to provide an extra reserve for unforeseen circumstances. Even so, since the profit not only from your own funds but also from the money borrowed, your net profit is $2,100, which expects a return of approximately 67.74% in 2 years, or 33.87 per year on the $37,700 personal investment. This figures earning on your $50 monthly savings as accumulated. The capital value of your income property can be mushroomed with sustained success at this $38.87% average rate as long as you desire to expand. Watch how the continuation of this formula will pyramid your state. Step 4. You take the $5,800 and again borrow 3 times as much, $7,400, making a total of $22,200. With this, you buy a full unit from building, 4 buildings or flats in need of renovation. Step 5. Put the 600 each year for the next 2 years using $1,200 plus net property income to to pay for the painting and refurbishing. 4 years. Step 6. You sell your improved 4-unit building with an accumulated 24,000 investment for 30,500. Again, a 25% gross profit. You repay the borrowed 17,400 and pay the 1,525 sales cost. This leaves a net profit of 4,575 for your investment and efforts, and gives you a total of 11,575 in 4 years. Step 7. You invest your 11,575 together with 3,725 you borrow, a total of 46,300 in an 8-unit income property building. You put in 600 a year for the next 2 years, plus your net property income. Or again, you arrange to have your property painted and renovated. Step 8. We sell the improved 8-unit building with an accumulated $47,500 for $59,379 and repay the $34,725 loan. You pay the $2,969 sales cost, leaving you in 6 years with $21,681. Step 9. Repeat this formula every 2 years. With each new purchase, you borrow approximately 3 times your own investment. Each time you buy a building or buildings as your estate increases. In need of refurbishing, you then paint and renovate, sell for a 25% 2-year cost gross profit, repay the loans, pay the 5% average sales cost, compounding most forms of investment, and particularly a growing business, subjects you to a major tax bite. Your period of income property will scarcely be affected by income taxes if managed prudently, as will be explained in later chapters. 8 to 20 years. Step 10. At the end of 20 years, you will possess a estate of $1,087,195. In 8 years, you would have 39,363. In 10 years, 70,548. In 12 years, 124,884. In 14 years, 219,972. In 16 years, 386,376. In 18 years, 677,583. And once again, in 20 years, 1,187,195. You can conservatively expect to earn an average net return of 6%, giving you the annual income of $71,232. Even as a neophyte income property owner, you should earn 6% on your total investment for 4 times your personal equity. Realty syndicates are able to take out a sizable bite of salaries and other heavy expenses and still virtually guarantee a 6% net return to the individual who, who, devote, who devoted no time or thought to their project. While mortgage the property income should should build your equity and net worth by repaying the loan, plus operating returning an operating in-pocket net over 6% on your personal investment for the net estate. You should have a conservative in-pocket net return of 6% on the entire investment after paying the mortgage. Mortgages are now easier to pay off. Changes in the regular mortgage practices have eliminated the major cause of the Depression and foreclosures. Owners who lost their properties in 1929 and the early 30s were chiefly those who had short-term mortgages with high interest. Mortgages included interest in the 8 to 10% range, high monthly payments, and a balloon payment. The principal, in most cases, had been had to be repaid or refinanced within 3 to 5 years. Many owners could have survived by renewing their mortgages, but it was often impossible to refinance. Mortgage holders foreclosed in many cases because they were required to by the existing laws. In the case of banks, money had to be raised to meet the panic withdrawals in the absence of the present-day deposit insurance. With the current income property loans written in the 7% range, the averaging 20 years to repay the principal, the nominal monthly payment automatically pay off the mortgage from the income. A look at probable expectations. Do the results in this chapter seem fantastic? The indicated operating figures are on the conservative side because most experienced big-time owners expect a minimum operating net of 20% on their personal investment after making mortgage payments. The operating net is a net return from the rentals while renting the property prior to turnover and capital gain. The turnover profits outlined in the step-by-step formula to $1 million are also highly probable when you follow these 4 principles. 1. Borrow the maximum that can be safely repaid. 2. Buy only property that needs improvement. 3. Make selective improvements that increase the value. Keep selling at profit and reinvesting. How can you best accomplish each of these cardinal principles will be described in detail as you progress in later chapters towards your accumulation of $1 million. Later case histories will prove our outline somewhat conservative as it is in my comparison. With my own experience, I started by pyramiding with only $1,000 instead of $2,500 cited in step 1. Reinvested on spasmodic rather than constant basis and still surpassed $1 million within 17 years. My net estate has tripled to over $3 million in the last 10, even though my real estate investments have remained a part-time endeavor. The formula indicates an average. You can actually expect to produce. You would not, of course, take identical steps, making major moves exactly 2 years apart in the formula investing, improving, and reinvesting. Some sales would be made 1 year or 1.5 years after the purchase. Some would be made 2.5 or 3 years later As your estate grows to many properties, you would maintain an overlapping program of continuous buying and selling. In some turnovers, your gains would exceed the indicated 25%. I have found 50 to 100% capital gains are not unusual in experience. In some deals, you might gain your gain might be less where the transaction does not meet the expectations, and there is always a possibility of loss. The profitless turnover, or profitless turnover, when neither gain or loss. But if you preserve and reinvest in capital, the example indicates an average you can actually expect to produce, even though not fully realizing your goal at each step. You can expect success at most steps. To show the formula works in practice, instances of typical purposes selected from current real estate markets will be cited in Part 2 and the later chapters. Then improvements which result in capital gains will be specified, and resale will be consummated at current market value. Most forms of investment accumulate by simple arithmetic. Sustained investment and turnover in business and income property, especially the latter, which will produce and harness the utmost latent power of borrowed money, pyramid, pyramid geometrically, geometric progression will always take arithmetic progression, even when the latter has a big head start. Anyone who has a good chance to fulfill the goal, anyone who has a good chance to fulfill the goals shown, anyone with the confidence to aim the goals has a good chance of fulfillment. Even though maximum success demands consistent effort, the reality road of riches requires neither superhuman endeavor nor superintelligence. The chief attributes of succeeding real estate investment are imagination, enterprise, and persistence. Imagination means the vision to see the inherent possibilities of property investment. Enterprise means the willingness to venture both capital and effort pursuit while growing. Persistent means the ability to adhere to a program till the goal is achieved or surpassed. My formula can be followed on a part-time basis. The amount of time and effort required is surprisingly small compared to the resulting compensation. As with my own experience, my formula can be followed on a part-time basis by the average employee if you took if your time is governed by unusually heavily existing commitments. You can choose a more leisurely pace if you desire, and plan your steps 3 or 4 apart. Steps 3 or 4 years apart. If starting late with low assets, you can plan on an investment goal that will be fulfilled in fewer years. If you possess substantial savings or other resources, such as a sizable equity in your home, you can get a head start by making an initial investment at the highest step, which represent asset at the highest step which present assets permit. Regardless of your present residence, you can take interstate highway at a crossroad and successfully complete a cross-country motor trip merely by following the guidepost. And regardless of your present financial status, you can take the reality, freeway to riches at any stage and follow the guideposts cited until you reach the destination of financial independence that meets your goal. I'm sorry. Uh, I planned on that's the end of chapter 2. I planned on trying to read chapter 3 as well, but my headache is just not going to allow me to do that much. Uh, so, whereas usually I really looking towards trying to do an hour long on these, so most nights will be between a half hour to an hour. I'm just over a half hour at this point in time, and I just cannot continue at this moment. I may come back and do some more this evening, or do it tomorrow evening. Uh, Once again, I will be shooting from 9 p.m. Colorado time. That's called 9 p.m. Mountain. That's like 8 p.m. California time. Don't ask me to convert the other direction. Well, but that's like 10 o'clock Central, so it's probably 11 o'clock Eastern. But I don't think because that's a hard time to remember everything. Uh, but good now. I'm going to be working a little bit more with these to try to figure out what's going on that I'm thinking I'm not actually seeing my previous post online. So my live streams you might not be able to come back to later, so I'm going to have to figure out another method of recording them and come back to them later. But we'll work on that. I will get some things figured out on this. I will be much better.